Part 2 of Demonstrators from the book Beyond Mortal Boundaries. This word meekness is such a powerful word and so little understood. It does not mean one who is a groveling, unassertive person, cringing and fearful. It means one of those dynamic persons who will inherit the earth. Meekness is power. It is the power to hold one's eyes single to the glory of Prime Creator, one who can glorify Prime Creator under any and all conditions and circumstances, as thanks is rendered in all things. It is a person clothed in the majestic, beautiful robe of humility, as the individual seeks to glorify Prime Creator instead of his own little ugly mortal self. This straight and narrow way is no place for those seeking to exalt themselves, or who are possessed with the unholy spirit of demonstration. This sacred pathway of light and glory can only be traveled by those of perfected love and deep humility. By their works ye shall know them, not by their words. When their prophecies fail and their words remain empty and unfilled, all men will become aware that they are only demonstrators of the ego self and not of Prime Creator. Thus saith the Lord God Almighty, woe unto the foolish prophets that follow their own spirit and have seen nothing. Ezekiel 13, chapter 13, verse 3. And so I have been instructed to include this warning that none be deluded by the false acclamations of the demonstrators. Seek rather to know Prime Creator for yourselves. Let Prime Creator alone be your teacher. Let none block your way by their self-importance, no matter how awesome or righteous they may declare themselves to be. When John the Beloved was going to get down upon his knees to worship and adore the angel of revelation, he was commanded, "See thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant," etc. Yet there are mere mortals who stand brazenly forth demanding acclaim from all they meet. They not only expect homage, they demand it, even while their hands are empty. As one fulfills the first and second great commandments, he fulfills all the laws and the prophets. He is no longer under the bondage of the laws that were formed for and applied to the wicked. He had moved up into the realm of the patriarchs and begins to live by and to fulfill the powerful wonder of the principle of faith. Returning again to the gifts of the Spirit. Temperate means to refrain from any fanaticism in anything, yet rather let wisdom choose and rule in a mildness of gentle love and peace. Against such there is no law. None can boast or brag along this glorious pathway of light. Those who do only block their own way with their little mortal selves. Anyone who declares boastingly that he is foremost on the divine holy pathway is standing still as others pass him by. He may think he is traveling, yet like one standing near a railroad track watches a train going by and begins to feel that the train is standing still and he is advancing, though he has remained motionless. Such is the condition of the one who boasts and prophesies in his own mortal weaknesses, believing he has more gifts and powers than any other, and therefore assumes he is nearest to the throne of Prime Creator. Anyone who thinks he is above and beyond all others is not on the sacred, holy pathway at all. He is only off in a little whirlpool of his own. Or her own. These boasting, self-acclaiming ones are known as demonstrators, as they perform an uncontrolled abandon with the ego self taking charge. Those who permit the spirit to take over in such abandon are working under the darkness of deception and are also deceiving those who yield themselves to stand before them in awe. Do not follow such. Do not lend them your ear or your attention. Pray for them and pass on. Such are not on the sacred pathway of holy glory. They are but rushing along that broad, wide path that leads to destruction and death, and realize it not. Yet so have thousands before them followed like sheep into the grave. No one so sacredly endowed with the power to perform miracles ever went forth proclaiming it. Imagine Peter and John, after healing the man at the temple gate, going forth boasting about it. Or imagine Christ ever boasting of either his powers or accomplishments. And so often he warned those who were healed not to boast of it. Rather, he said, "Go thy way and tell no man." Charity, or the pure love of Christ, suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up, doth not behave unseemly. It does not go into unseemly contortions or loud shouting. It is always majestic and under strict divine control. It never behaves in an unseemly, repulsive manner. Anyone who fulfills the first and great commandment will also have fulfilled the second one. No one who loves with all his mind, all his heart, body, soul, could possibly think an evil, unkind thought against a living soul. In fact, his mind and lips would have already lost the power to hurt and wound, and his voice will be heard among the gods. He will have fulfilled all the laws and the prophets, and will no longer be under the laws or the prophets. He will have moved into the promises of Almighty Prime Creator, even as the ancient patriarchs. Get ready for the matriarchs. Such a one will become clothed in light instead of in his own mortal nakedness. He will need none to teach him, neither will he need any to prophesy over him. And Prime Creator will be his teacher as he enters that straight and narrow way that leads to life eternal. This straight and narrow path is so sacred and so holy and so filled with the power and the light of Prime Creator that anyone who would assume to take over leadership or to display any degree of self-importance will be left behind in his own darkness. Some of those who seek to display their imagined importance are often dangerously deadly, and that they are only standing at that wide, broad path that leads to destruction, enticing all who will listen to them to enter therein. Such will deceive the very elect, if possible. Shortly, the keys of discernment will be revealed so that none need to be deceived. And the main safeguard against such is to keep a constant prayer of praise and love and gratitude singing in the soul. This glorious devotion keeps one in tune with Prime Creator, and the word is, "My sheep hear my voice, and they know me, and a stranger they will not follow." Some of these deceiving ones are deceiving themselves most of all. They may believe they are at the very journey's end and are waiting to be invited to sit with Christ upon his throne, and realize not that they have never set one foot upon the sacred path. Any unseemly act or repulsive demonstrating is but the little ego self bearing witness of itself. Only majesty is carried by those who are truly on this holy sacred path that leads to life eternal. If one loves his neighbor as himself, that ugly, evil ego self is automatically overcome in the great, glorious triumph overcoming. Those who permit themselves to become afflicted with the deadly eye disease or the me, 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 me. It's not about you and it's not about you. Do, 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 do. It's about all of us. The eye disease, the letter I, right, will soon become completely blind as they go rushing headlong along that wide, broad path that leads to destruction. They are the blind leading the blind as they shout forth their imagined instructions. These can never be taught simply because they already think they know it all. Know-it-alls. They cannot even listen to anything except their own words as they continue to reiterate their own experiences and proclaim their own importance. If they do not humble themselves, then Prime Creator will humble them in time, and it will be a great, public, humiliating experience as they are invited down. Those who travel the divine highway of light live in the present, not in the past. They do not drag the past along with them in their tedious recitals of ancient memories. They leave the past behind, for he who looks back is not fit for the kingdom. If a past experience is ever repeated, it must be utilized only to illustrate some lesson or to prove some point, yet never in self-acclaim or in boasting or deadly repetition. The dividing line between bragging, self-exalting, and humble sharing is so fine, the wicked cannot possibly detect the difference as they rush along their broad open way to destruction. In 1 Corinthians chapter 14, Paul gives this beautiful picture of the gift, saying, "He that speaks in tongues edifies himself, yet the church is unedified." He also states that he would rather speak 5 words with his understanding, that by his voice he might teach others, than speak 10,000 words in an unknown tongue. He states that tongues were to be for a sign to unbelievers and not to them that believe. Then Paul stated that though he had spoken in tongues more than they all, yet he recommended that they be held in restraint at meetings. And here it must be explained that Paul traveled in his missionary labors from Jerusalem through Greece, Rome, and all the countries between there and ancient Britain, where many areas and languages were unknown to him. Brighton, Briton, look it up, where many areas and languages were unknown to him. There are records in the British Museum. Okay, there we go. There are records in the British Museum proving such travels. And in order to converse with these many peoples, he was given the gift of tongues that he might testify of Yeshua Christ, Son of the living God, Prime Creator, of his crucifixion and of his resurrection from the dead. This is why Paul spoke in tongues more than they all, because it was necessary, and Paul never utilized the gift except when it was needed. Beware of those who go into physical contortions or unseemly displays, or who raise their voices to a high-pitched rasping tone in their testifying or praying. The power of Prime Creator is felt, not necessarily heard, except as one's tones become richer and deeper as the power of Prime Creator bears witness in a divine majesty of holiness. The spirit of Prime Creator is only manifest in glory and beauty and peace and divine majestic power as the individual who receives such an outpouring holds himself under complete control. Then only can he possibly be a bearer of power. Now, concerning the outpouring of the Spirit of Prime Creator upon all flesh. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, Prime Creator, and none else. And my people shall never be ashamed. And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and the handmaids in those days will I pour out my Spirit. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. It will be great for some and terrible for others. And it shall come to pass that whosoever call on the name of the Lord, prime creator, God Almighty, shall be delivered. Joel chapter 2, verses 27 through 32. The sun to be darkened is also recorded in Joel chapter 3, verse 15. Isaiah chapter 24, verse 22. Matthew chapter 24, verse 29. Mark chapter 13, verse 24. And Luke chapter 23, verse 45. The word or name Israel means literally men or children of light and love. Israel literally is children of light and love. And the promise of the Spirit of Prime Creator being poured out upon all flesh is the full preparation for those who are to be born of the Spirit, that they can come and go as the wind, to give protection and service to those who have not yet fulfilled all righteousness, and only the righteous will so respond to the glorifying rays of the Spirit of Almighty Prime Creator. The wicked will be in no way prepared to respond to this purifying light, and they will lift up their voices and curse God and die, as it is revealed in Revelation chapter 16 and Isaiah chapter 30, verse 26. Now, this must be made clear. When the righteous respond to the powerful rays of that released Spirit of Prime Creator, according to the foregoing prophecy of Joel, there will be no wild, hysterical abandon in their actions or reactions. They will prophesy and glorify Prime Creator in a power of humble majesty and in perfect control. God Almighty's power can only be made manifest in those who have brought the light and the life and the Spirit and the power into subjection, as it is released through them to glorify Prime Creator instead of themselves. This prophecy of Joel's first informs us that those who are of Israel, or who are men of light and love, children of light and love, are taken into Prime Creator's special care and will be enfolded in Prime Creator's power and will never be ashamed. Then comes the intensified pouring out of Prime Creator's Spirit upon all flesh. Next comes the signs in the heavens and in the earth, followed by the sun being darkened and the moon being turned to blood or appearing deep red in color. And after these things come the great and dreadful day of the Lord. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days shall be shortened, there shall be no flesh saved. Yet for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Matthew chapter 24, verses 21 through 22. Only in the deepest trust and love and divine control can one be prepared to be born of the Spirit, that he can come and go as the wind, and she can come and go as the wind, to render service wheresoever he and she is directed. And such as these are no longer classified as being of flesh, for they are so filled with the Spirit of Almighty Prime Creator, their very flesh has become spiritualized, else they could not have been born of the Spirit. These will never be ashamed, nor dismayed, nor distressed, nor injured by those great tribulations that will be poured out without measure during this great and dreadful day of the Lord. Those who are born of the Spirit will be spared, for they will be immune to the things that afflict the flesh. And they shall be mine, saith Prime Creator, Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him and that serveth prime creator and him that serveth him not. Matthew chapter 3, verses 17 through 18. This glorious birth of the Spirit, this complete control, is best described by the new song that none, yet the righteous can learn. None, yet the righteous can learn this sacred, powerful, dynamic song because it cannot be uttered in words or by music or in boasting, noisy, uncontrolled acclaim. It is a silent song of inward rejoicing, of released glory to Prime Creator that arises from the depths of one's soul in vibrations so powerful and so high, no music or words on earth could ever express it. They could only defile it and squander and dissipate the power of its everlasting, purifying glory of spiritual perfection and complete fulfillment. In silence only is power generated and held. The new song is a song of everlasting power, released in silence as the full vibrations of the Spirit of Almighty Prime Creator are released through one's being. This new song is the song of triumph, overcoming, as the flesh is overcome and all that pertains to it. Even the life more abundant is contained in the singing glory of that new song of eternal triumph. The song of overcoming, as one utilizes the great Christ vibrations of praise and love and gratitude, as he and she spiritualizes him and herself to receive the full glory of the birth of the Spirit, that he and she can come and go as the wind in a selflessness of service beyond words or demonstrations or self-acclaim. The proud and the mighty. I watched those high ones from the side as they came riding on the tide, placing themselves upon the crest with their heads held high above the rest, demanding others to bear them along as they sang their own self-righteous song of self-importance and self-acclaim, the highest seats their only aim. They demanded their place at the top of the wave, proclaiming their calling was to save. As they stepped on the shoulder and ground neath their tread, the ones from whom they gouged their bread. Proud and haughty, the high seats theirs, as they mouthed their great self-righteous prayers. They exalted themselves on the pinnacle high, as the wave they rode reached toward the sky. Momentum increasing as it neared the land, the wave crashed over the rocks and sand, and the topmost crest was hurled out wide, while the wave returned on its ebbing tide. And the far-flung and those whose claim was the highest seats and demand for fame were left to crawl on their hands and knees, slowly back to the depths of the seas. By Nancella Matthews. This will complete the chapter Demonstrators from the book Beyond Mortal Boundaries, Chapter 11. Chapter 12, The Gifts and the Fruits of the Spirit. I am pulsing love to each and every one in all realms, in all moments. Peace and aloha. Bama P.